Hello. How is everybody doing today? We're so excited. We're just going to give people some time to join before we get started. I'm going to chug some water, you know. We'll probably get started about 11:02 maybe.
Perfect. Julie, where are you doing this webinar out of? Where are you located right now?
Well, I'm, as always, I'm Carmen San Diego, jumping from place to place, but today I am in my parents' house in Castro Valley, California. Probably the least exciting of all locations where I usually am. What about you, Hamza? Where are you calling in from?
I'm in I like to say warm this time, but warm Ottawa. It's nice and hot, here in Canada. And
For those people that are joining that aren't familiar with Ottawa, Hamza has shown me what his house looks like 10 months out of the year, and warm is not the word I would use to describe it.
yeah, no, it's this is we're officially in summer, so we've got like good couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Warm weather.
All right. Well, let's see. It is 11:01, but maybe we can start getting maybe doing some intros and do our little kickoff, and I'm sure people will keep trickling in as we go.
Amazing.
So with that, maybe you can share your screen. We'll get started.
Perfect. Julia, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I certainly can.
All right.
Well, if you want to go over to the intro page, the attendee page, Hamza, thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Julia, and I head up partnerships for Builder. Now, I've been with the company for about 2 years, which is also coincidentally about as long as we've had our Shopify hosted app listed in the Shopify app ecosystem, which is really exciting. We're about to celebrate our birthday. Obviously, a lot of learnings have come in our 2 years working with Shopify merchants. So we really thought that we'd get some of our agency partners together and talk about some of those insights and really empower you to understand when Builder makes sense as a solution for your clients. Also talk a little bit about kind of the whole stigma around Headless, when that makes sense, when to use Builder's Headless CMS, for example, and all of that. And ultimately just kind of empower you to know when and why to pitch Builder. So that's me. And without further ado, my colleague Hamza, if I may know some about Shopify, but this guy is a true expert. So Hamza, take it away.
Thanks, Julia. I'm excited to be here at the webinar, and yeah, I've just been here. I've joined Builder recently. Just been here under 6 months. Prior to this, I was actually at Shopify working both in pre and post sales with enterprise merchants. So I've had the pleasure working with literally thousands and thousands of brands on Shopify. And I'm glad, once I made this transition at Builder, I'm kind of, working with Shopify brands as well. And Julia, thank you so much for joining on this webinar as well, because there's nobody more than you, I feel, in the company that has so much experience in both the Shopify world, the Headless world, and kind of, e-commerce in general. So I'm excited, to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And actually, Hamza's being modest. Not only has he worked with Shopify brands, he's also has built a few successful Shopify brands. So true entrepreneur over here. I've seen screenshots of his dashboard of his brands that he used to run. And this guy's a killer. So if you ever need advice, I'm sure he's happy to freelance a little bit too. But before we get into today's agenda, I just did want to share some upcoming news. like I mentioned, we are going to be focusing today more around kind of an agency audience, right? And the people behind the scenes making brands really successful. But in 3 weeks' time, we're actually going to be doing a webinar specifically for Shopify merchants around the holidays and prepping, different campaigns, sharing some campaign ideas, and most importantly, walking you through how easy it is to do those things from right within the Builder UI. So that's coming up. You're going to get your invite soon. We really hope you join us and pass that over to your clients as well. Now for today, we're really going to tell you a little bit about like the Builder why, right? Maybe share some features that make us stand out from our competitors. Do you want to go back to the agenda real quick, Hamza? Stand out for our competitors and kind of really make you understand how to kind of sell Builder and our value. Hamza is also going to jump into the UI and power, like there are some power features, and I think he's going to like power through them and show them to you, show them how you can kind of demo them and really get your clients excited. And then I think we've probably all heard Shopify launch their hydrogen product to kind of the general audience last week. So now more than ever, brands are asking us about Headless, and I'm sure they are with you as well. So we kind of wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how we're thinking about it and how we're speaking to it. And lastly, just how agencies can be successful, what role agencies should play, in our opinion, and truly like what is a great indication that a merchant is going to be successful with Builder. Because the reality is like, we launched 2 years ago and we were like, man, Builder is for everybody, right? And ultimately we do want it to be for everybody, but there's certainly trends and indications that we've kind of come to learn of like the types of teams that are going to get the most out of this tool. And we really want you to be pitching Builder where it makes sense and not just broadly across the board, because ultimately, if the team doesn't have some of these indicators, they may just be frustrated, and that's not experience we want anyone to have. So that's our agenda. We are recording today's session. And so if there's anything that sticks out to you, please let us know. We're happy to maybe cut it down into digestible demos or whatever it may be so that you can share with your clients and prospects afterwards. All right. On that note, Hamza, take it away and tell us a little bit about why Builder.
Amazing. Yes. As you know, I'm a little excited. So I was ahead and jumping on slides, but why Builder? This actually goes back to my story of why I chose Builder as well. Being in the world of Shopify for 4 years, I've come across, again, like, I've come across a lot of different apps, different platforms, working with Shopify, and some of the common themes that I've come across with, I think every brand is talking about is, hey, we want to improve performance. We want to improve customer experience. And what happens is, when it comes to performance or customer experience, you download these apps that, you can visually drag and drop and kind of build out these beautiful landing pages. But then we look at the code behind it, or when you keep adding content to these landing pages, they're not really optimized. There's a big impact on performance. And the same thing goes with customer experience is when, you're looking to improve customer experience, you need all these optimization tools like A/B testing or heat maps or personalization. And when you're adding more and more of these apps, you're making your store heavier. And also, again, performance is taking a big hit. The one thing that Builder does really amazing is that all the content that you build on Builder is super performant. So it's developer approved. Small things like, adding images or videos are fully optimized. These are things like high-end agencies are doing for their brands. But I've noticed that a lot of successful brands are just adding content and images without even optimizing it. And when they look back, they're like, oh, there's a ton of different images that need to be optimized. And hence that's why their stores also, getting hit on performance. A lot of the optimization tools like A/B testing, personalization, heat maps, a lot of these are built in Builder. So we know that when it comes to creating customer experience, is not just performance, but then also the ability to test and see what's working, what's not, personalizing experiences to be able to give that amazing, unique customer experience. So all these tools are built within Builder. And again, not making your tech stack, not adding more to your tech stack, and making your Shopify store even more heavier, and and then as a result making it slower. Also, we realized that when it comes to building out these amazing customer experiences, themes are sometimes limiting. So, you start off with maybe like a, 1.0, and then you might move to like a custom theme or 2.0 with Builder. We seamlessly integrate with any theme, and you can work on any theme. You're not limited to the themes that are on Shopify.
Which is great because, sorry, really quickly, like from an agency perspective, right? Like a lot of times you've been working with these clients for a while, and you've probably created some really awesome bespoke content, right? And we're essentially saying that Builder is kind of an incremental tool that you can use to add on top of that. You don't have to redo anything, remake anything. Like Hamza said, we integrate with anything, which is really, really exciting and great.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. And then on top of that, you have data. So, analytics that are built in Builder. So, when it comes to optimization, you have heat maps to give you further data. We're giving you data on clicks and conversion rates and average order value. So you can compare your different variations when it comes to A/B testing and see which variation is the winner and kind of go forward with that. You can test small things like, the color of a button or the position of where you want that button to be, and see, if that affects, the conversion rates, or if it affects anything. Scheduling content. I think this is incredible, because the one thing, every brand is always stressed because they're working on so many different events. Imagine, just think about, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, scheduling all the different, imagine the ability to schedule all these pieces of content in advance, and not being able, and not having your team stay up the night before, and making sure that, they are, making sure that this content goes live at midnight. So you can be confident. You can schedule all the content that you build on Builder, and know that, and when it's the right time, it will automatically load and go live. And the thing that gets me the most excited about Builder is, when I worked with brands, and I worked with brands that were not on Shopify, and kind of, help them migrate over to Shopify Plus. The biggest budget for them was migration, working and kind of rebuilding the content, migrating everything over to Shopify. And I realized that, a lot of the time there's this low confidence, like, okay, what, are we making the right decision? Is Shopify the right, a platform for us? And now more and more, there's conversations of headless and hydrogen, and there's so much happening out there. There's so much FOMO has been created of what the right platform is. It's even more, makes you even more less confident to know, okay, should we be spending so much money on migration? And just with Builder, any content that you build on Builder can easily be migrated over to, let's say, for example, headless, literally with the flip of a switch. So, be confident in knowing that whatever content that, brands are building on Builder, that can easily be switched over and migrated to, let's say, for example, a headless solution.
Yeah, I love that, Hamza. I was just thinking, like, for an agency, like, you're going out there, you're filling all those RFPs, and you're essentially putting your name on the line, being like, this is the right technical solution for you, right? Whether it's Shopify, whether you're using tech like Builder or whatever it is, right? I love the fact that this gives you that confidence to be like, all right, well, we want to be a partner for you, merchant, right? Like, we want to work with you today, we want to work with you in the future, and here's kind of how we are proposing tools that you'll never outgrow, right? See, I even wrote that on the slide. I think, like, the idea here is, hopefully, by having this forward thinking type of proposal for any RFPs you're going out there to fill, will kind of instill confidence for them and you. And the fact that you are kind of there, not just to do an initial build, but kind of be a guiding factor for them.
Amazing.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Hamza.
Yeah, no, I would love to jump into a quick demo and actually show some of these
Yeah,
tools. All
heck
right.
yeah, you better do it. I feel like I don't know if everyone attending has seen Builder before, but we really kind of want to show you like the true power features today. Now, there's obviously so much more to show. So if anyone wants to follow up and schedule a one-on-one kind of more in-depth demo after this, please don't hesitate to reach out. But without further ado, let's do it, Hamza.
All right, amazing. So this is the back end of Builder. And with Builder, again, you can literally touch every single page on Shopify. So if you have access to checkout, you can touch the checkout, the cart page, the home page, the collection page. You don't have to build out whole product pages. Let's say you love your product page and you want to further enhance it. You can actually build out components or sections within the product page and A/B test those sections, or personalize those sections within an existing product page as well, for example. Now I'm actually going to go into the editor. So this is where you would, your teams would go in and design their pages or design their sections. And also, the features that I really want to highlight are the ones around optimization. So A/B test is one that I really want to touch on as well. So what I've done is I've created two variations. So again, right now they have the default variation and I have variation 1. Now in my variation 1 right now, it looks exactly the same, but let's say, for example, variation 1, I want to quickly change the color. Let's say I want to change the color, the button to yellow. And then, so I have all these as a designer, I have all these tools to design over here and change the color. And then let's say I want to add a collection. I can just literally drag the collection over here. Because everything Builder is seamlessly connected to Shopify, everything, I can just pull all my collections. I can be like, okay, let me put the women's self-care, and then I can publish the update. So now I have two variations for my A/B testing. I have my default variation where my buttons are white, and then I have no collection. And then I have my second variation, which has the collections and my buttons are yellow. Let's actually try this out. It might not work. I'll go into an incognito screen and see if I go to the store, if I, get put in that segment and I see yellow buttons. So unfortunately, I've been put in the same segment as the default variation, but what the way I set it up was I set it up 50-50. So I said, okay, 50% of the traffic, I want it to go to my default, the 50% want to go to variation 1. And then after, I get insights right from Builder. So I can see over here, I can compare my default variation and my variation 1. I can be like, okay, what are my unique clicks? What are my conversion rates? My average order value? I can get all of this data. And obviously I can change it. I can see the last 7 days, last 3 days. And then yeah, I can pick the winner and I can go forward with it.
Hey, Hamza.
Yes.
I just wanted to add really quickly, like from an agency perspective, like in past roles, I've worked on the side where you're kind of filling an RFP and there's a lot of like storytelling involved, right? And almost hypothesizing. And I think the tools within Builder really empower you to do that during your pitch, right? Because you can say, I think there is this widely spread kind of old wives' tale of like, the higher the products are to the top of the fold, the more likely a page is to convert, right? But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, maybe more content, you hear like more content allows people to connect more to your brand and blah, 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 right? Like brands, I feel like there's so many kind of theories out there. And this like A/B testing functionality allows you to super easily spin up lots of different experiences and start testing those out, right? And that flexibility and that data-driven content creation becomes a part of the pitch, right? It becomes like, hey, we're really not just designing because this like looks good, right? Not just building because this is what you say you want, but we're also kind of tackling this from a very like analytical perspective and hoping to get, whether it's conversions or clicks or whatever the metric, your North Star metric is, driving that for your clients. Sorry,
Yeah,
Hamza, I just wanted to chime in on that.
That's a really good point, Julia. I remember my days when I was a merchant and I was running Shopify store. I was running my own brand. I was driving a lot of my traffic to the product page and it was converting well. And then all of a sudden stopped converting. So I'm like, okay, let me drive it to the homepage, and it started converting again. But I had no A/B testing tools. I was just literally, because Facebook ads back then were so cheap, I could afford it. I could take that risk and be like, okay, hey, you know what? Let me try it on the homepage. Then I realized homepage wasn't working, so I moved back to the product page, and I actually downloaded a landing page builder, and I added more content, and it started converting again. So I was literally just kind of testing different things and basically the way I was A/B testing was at the cost of, how much I was spending with my ads. And back then was the conversions was weak. That's a whole new topic. But yeah, so I think with tools like this now, you can really optimize even the smaller pieces of content. Now jumping into scheduling, again, you can schedule every piece of content. So you can choose exactly date and time for whatever content that you're releasing, whether it's even a small changing the color of a button to a whole landing page. Personalization. I think this is something that is one of the most powerful features of Builder. At my time at Shopify, I remember, my biggest sales pitch was Flow, which is a Shopify Plus feature, and said that, hey, with Flow, you can really, segment customers automatically. You can tag your customers based on, all these shopping behaviors. And then once you have this data, you could, personalize these experiences. And it was interesting because, Flow did this without any coding, anything. Flow did this amazing segmentation. But then after that, I never really told them that, hey, when you need to personalize now, you have to write a line of code, or you have to, use code in order to use this data and kind of show personalized experiences. With Builder, it makes it really easy. Someone like myself who has no coding experience, I can go in and gather all these pieces of data that Builder is collecting directly from Shopify, and use it and personalize those experiences based on visually dragging and dropping and creating this amazing experience. So, you can use customer tags, you can use, things like what's in your cart, showing a different product based on what's in your cart, even currency. So you can be like, hey, if somebody's coming from, let's say, for example, France, translate the page, or, show different pieces of content, because maybe in France, people like different product more, another product more than the product that's doing well in the US. Landing pages, I feel that, the traffic that you're trying to attract, especially traffic coming from LinkedIn versus Facebook versus TikTok, is different. The audience is completely different. So you can actually change the experience, change the content, and have that content, reflect the traffic or reflect the audience as well. So here's an example I want to quickly show that I built. So here's the backend of my Shopify store, and this is me as a customer. So let's say I am, tagged as men. And if I go to my store and I refresh, I should see a men's experience. Now over here, I'm obviously making, big changes, but you can have maybe like just a product change, into men's collection, rather than having men's and women's. And then let's say my customer journey continues, and I'm in love with this brand, and I spend a lot, and I hit VIP status. The next time I go back to the store, I should get another experience. I should get like a VIP experience. So this is just one way of, personalization. And again, zero code was used. I just literally took all that data that Builder had collected from Shopify, all those tags, and then visually dragged and dropped and build it out these landing pages. And that's how I'm showing these experiences. All right, let me go back to the Builder's backend. And here are a couple of other features I wanted to highlight as well. So one thing I just wanted to point out, and I really want Julia to dive into this because she has a lot of experience and she's worked with a lot of brands and agencies that have used the custom components. But the one thing I do want to add to this is that in my time at Shopify and now at Builder, I'm having more and more conversations where brands are relying more on a different framework other than just .liquid. It could be a reason for migrating over to Headless, and that's their plan, and that's why they're working on a different framework. Or it could be that, they're just they just hit kind of, the ceiling of what they're able to create with .liquid, and now they're kind of working with a different framework, trying to, push the limits of what they can do in Shopify. And especially agencies, they're really good at this, and working with different frameworks on Shopify. So over to you, Julia.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually like a really important power feature of Builder, and one that can be pretty confusing at times. If you've heard our terminology before, we talk about templates, we talk about symbols, and we also talk about custom code components. And lots of partners that we work with, there's some confusion around when it makes sense to use each, right? So I'll give you a quick little explanation of how you can use those features today. But honestly, if it's something you're interested in, if you're kicking off a client project, please definitely reach out to us. And we're happy to have almost like an architecture session with you ahead of time and kind of talk about like, okay, well, when does it make sense to use a symbol? When should you be registering custom code components? And hopefully that'll kind of set you on the right path to make sure you're utilizing everything in a builder approved way, if you will. But just to give you a little bit of insight into code components, like Hamza said, this could be done in a framework like React or Vue. It could also be done in Liquid. You can see that Liquid component section right below. The idea here is to allow your end users to visually build experiences within your own kind of design system and using your own code components. So you may have created something for a past client or for a current client, or you feel more comfortable creating something in your own code. All you need to do is essentially register those code components as buttons in the UI, similar to where it says, section static content or whatever, or one of our primitive elements. And once you do that registration, which only takes a couple minutes, further updates that you make are actually going to be in your own code base, and everything will be reflected in the builder UI. So a great example would be, maybe you created a really beautiful, stylized and branded product carousel for the homepage for this particular client. But then they want to use it on their collection page as well, right? By essentially creating a button in the builder UI, it's now just as simple for them to drag and drop and bring that at the top of their collection page or wherever they'd like it on their site. You no longer have to go into the theme code or whatever to kind of bring that code component in. One thing I will say is there's a fair bit of structure around code components, obviously, right? And so you have the ability to sort of create these like templatized fields for your end users to fill out to create that experience. So in the product carousel example, maybe you give them an option to choose 3 products. Maybe you give them an option, like a title field to fill in the title, whatever it may be. And those are kind of the only fields that they're able to control. Now, a symbol is slightly different. It is essentially a template that is managed in one location, and every change that you make is pushed globally. So I like to use the example of an announcement bar. So right now, that announcement bar says complimentary shipping ends in 24 hours. I'm assuming a Power Builder user would schedule another option to go live in 24 hours that's going to call out something entirely different, since the complimentary shipping promotion will have expired. Now, I'm assuming an announcement bar is going to live everywhere on your site, most pages, right? And so if you were using a traditional template, you would have to go to every single one of those pages and make that update or schedule that update, right? A symbol allows you to do that one time, and when a change is pushed, that is kind of synced globally. I know that's a very bare bones explanation, but like I said, we have tons of content on this, and we're happy to have one-on-one sessions with you and ensure you're trained on when to use templates, when to use symbols, and when to use code components.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Julia. Yeah, I mean, there is so much. We've just literally just touched the surface of what Builder can do. If there's any designers there right now from the agency side, do know that there's tons and tons of tools. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to set up some time and give everyone a in-depth demo. All right, let me jump back into the slides.
Great. Now, I know we only have about 15 minutes left together, and I really want to talk about 2 big topics: Headless, and also about kind of the role agency plays and what types of merchants are most successful with Builder. Now, on the topic of Headless, I think it's been kind of swirling around all of us. I think it ebbs and flows in terms of how excited merchants are about it. And on the slide here, you can see some of the traditional reasons that you've probably read about on why a merchant should go headless. You've probably told your clients some variation of this, right? But I just wanted to take a couple minutes to share what kind of conversations we've been hearing from our Shopify hosted customers around why they are considering headless. I think there is a massive kind of pressure that or kind of tail in the ecosystem around the fact that all headless sites are extremely performant, and if you want a fast site, you have to go headless. And I think merchants are very much kind of intrigued, I guess, by the fact that they can increase their conversion so significantly by making that change. And so I think that's definitely one thing that we hear a lot. We hear people saying, well, we need to go headless if we want to be performant, right? There are people that feel that perhaps they're outgrowing Shopify and they need more flexibility and better support for managing kind of a global business. So that's definitely something we've heard. But the last thing, and we hear this a lot when we really get down to brass tacks, is kind of this aspect of FOMO. It feels like, when Shopify is releasing this feature to like the general public, right, for with hydrogen, when everybody around is publishing case studies around how much faster their site is with headless, whatever, right? Like it feels like there's a pressure to keep up, and feel like, if you're not doing this, then you're already behind, right? And I totally understand that, but I honestly believe that there is a true time and place when a merchant is ready for headless, right? And by pushing them over that edge before they're ready, you're actually risking setting them up for the opposite of success, right? And I don't want to say failure altogether, but you're just setting them up for some struggles, right? And so I think like a big part of this is really understanding when headless makes sense and what are some indications of that. And so Hamza, obviously you've had a lot of experience working with different Shopify merchants here and at Shopify. Can you talk a little bit about what to you says somebody may be ready?
Yeah, no, Julia, that's a really good question. And when it comes to headless, I feel that revenue alone is just not an indicator of whether headless is a right solution for you or not. It's also looking at things like your team. Especially merchants that are on Shopify hosted, one of the biggest things that Shopify has always been telling merchants is that, hey, do what you're good at and leave the tech to us. And they've always hired teams accordingly, and that's how they've grown. And they've grown massively. You talk about merchants that are doing, hundreds of $1 million, well over $300 million as well. But when you look at their team, they have a couple of, maybe front-end engineers that are managing a business that's doing like, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And when it comes to headless, it is a more complicated solution than just, being hosted on Shopify. So it does require you to have the right team as well. But then I also see brands that are doing 20 million in revenue, and they have amazing teams. They're relying perfectly on the agencies. They have the right, structured team, just because that's how they were set up, and they have moved headless. And then I've seen occasions where merchants have moved headless and moved back, which is probably the worst thing you could do, is, spend all this money moving headless and then kind of going back over to hosted. So really doing the due diligence and making sure that, merchants are their team set up for success, because yes, you might improve conversion rates, you might improve performance, and you might be able to build that customer experience you're looking for. But if the brand is not able to maintain the technical side, at the end of the day, it's just going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think the reality is a lot of really successful large Shopify businesses have relied on the customization that's possible in the theme editor or with Storefront 2.0, and have structured their teams as such. So you may have massive businesses with massive teams of content creators, but not the right technical resources to maintain a traditional CMS or anything like that, that kind of takes the training wheels off. And so I think it is kind of on us as the SaaS vendors and on agencies to do that work of like really prepping them of not just the upfront kind of an investment, but also kind of how their day-to-day lives will change with Headless. And I did want to speak a little bit to hydrogen and oxygen. Obviously, I believe last week's announcement is really going to push people to ask their agency partners more about Headless than ever. And so I wanted to quickly run through the fact, like, for those of you who don't know, Hydrogen is Shopify's React-based framework. So it is fully open source, so no cost associated. Oxygen is their global hosting solution. And we did want to call out Hydrogen works seamlessly with other hosting providers like Netlify and Vercel, both really great partners of ours. So you're not kind of limited to their solution. I will say that I have heard rumblings that they're, especially now to increase adoption, Shopify is offering the entire packaged Headless solution free of cost. So obviously that's a big positive for merchants that's maybe hoping to explore Headless. Some other things that they are promising is obviously speed and performance, but the biggest thing is I think by remaining in the Shopify ecosystem, it really takes a lot of the difficult tech decisions out of the picture, right? Like traditionally a merchant will have to, there's so many different categories in the Headless space, right? And you have to make sure you evaluate 2 to 3 or whatever. And you're really, a lot of them rely on their agency. So actually you're the one stuck doing that on their behalf. So, I mean, I guess one thing to really consider with hydrogen and oxygen is like kind of taking all of that out of the picture. There are lots of features that are promised and planned with the hydrogen kind of Headless solution from Shopify. One thing I will say is from everything we've heard, unlike Theme Editor and Storefront 2.0, all content management is actually going to be more like traditional CMS, so very template driven, and won't have any of that drag and drop kind of features that most Shopify merchants kind of rely on with their current hosted solution. So we definitely encourage you to bring in a tool like Builder that has that drag and drop UI to not only kind of supplement, or not supplement, but like cover everything that they've had out of the box with the hosted solution before. But of course, we bring so many other more robust kind of editing features to the table. We will be sharing this deck after the session, as well as I noticed there's been a few questions in the Q&A. So we'll try and tackle all of that together afterward. But as part of this deck, I highly encourage you to check out our example project for Builder and Hydrogen that I have linked on the slide. Now, Hamza, if you want to just jump to the next slide. Yeah, we do also have starter packs for Builder and Next.js and Shopify that has one-click deployment to Vercel and Netlify. That's also a great starting point if you have a client that is exploring Shopify Headless. So something we can also share after the fact. When it comes to Headless, I think even if it's the right kind of team structure, the right kind of financial standing, all the things that Hamza covered earlier, I think there's also this moment of like, oh my God, there's just this like mountain of things we have to do. It just seems incredibly daunting, right? And it's almost like you don't know where to start. You don't know if it's the right decision for you. And so we've really been encouraging our customers to approach Headless in a phased way. And so we wanted to talk a little bit through that today. Since we are, running a bit low on time, we'll try and keep this concise, but I'm very happy to go into detail with this after the fact if anybody has any questions. So Hamza, maybe you can do a quick run through of how best to prep, and then we can get into the approach.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, as I mentioned in my demo too, every piece of content that you build using Builder can easily be migrated with a flip of a switch over to Headless. So, I think the first step is to start building as much piece. If Builder is if the solution is to start using Builder as much as possible. Usually we typically see a very phased approach, even with the way Builder is used, starting off landing pages, then going into home pages and kind of optimizing product pages. So like start building as much as you can using Builder, using a different framework, right? Builder works very well with any framework. And then yeah, I mean, so this is really, what I feel is as to use the power of Builder, build out those components, and then when the time is right for Headless, start slowly migrating over the pieces of content, and you don't have to rebuild it.
Yeah, and the research aspect of it, I think, is huge too, right? And this is where agency comes in and kind of guides and consults, right? But just kind of preparing them and having them start conversations with the technologies they'll be like leaning on in the future and getting familiar. And once that's done, maybe Hamza, you can go to the next slide. We really recommend starting with small tests. And I think nowadays everything is so data driven that I think anytime you can show ROI right off the bat and make your customers feel a little bit more secure in the decision that they make, I think that's going to go really far in terms of kind of getting them comfortable with the project. And so we always talk about kind of, because of the nature of Builder and being able to kind of copy things from space to space, we recommend actually creating, let's say, a landing page in the Shopify hosted app and also on your new Headless site, right? And then kind of using our UI to run A/B tests and show those conversions, right? And be able to be like, all right, do we feel good about this decision? Kind of let's move on, right? And next slide, if you want to jump over, Hamza, from there, you kind of want to do an incremental move. And you want to do this in like the most risk adverse way possible, right? So something like a homepage gets a lot of traffic. And so it's very easy to A/B test that if we're talking about smaller tests, right? But, there's actually very few conversions that happen on the homepage. So perhaps you do that and then a collection page and then move on to your product page when you feel comfortable and ready, right? So this will kind of vary merchant, but just in general, don't feel like everything needs to be flipped over in one fell swoop. It can absolutely happen incrementally. And the last thing I'll just kind of call out here, Hamza, if you want to, yep, thank you. I think one thing we really, really want to hammer home is the fact that all headless sites are fast is really a misconception. Yes, they may be faster, but there are definitely a lot of checks and balances that you as the agency and expert should kind of look into in terms of the performance of your client's site, right? There are tons of third-party scripts that sometimes slow down performance. And I mean, a lot of times people forget that every site, if you have nothing on your site, it's going to have an 100 out of 100 page speed score, right? And the more you add, the more that decreases, right? So you really need to utilize tools to try and get that performance as great as possible. And we actually have our own open source software, Party Town. We won't go too much into the technical details today, just because, I probably wouldn't even explain it that well, but I highly encourage your developers to jump in there and take a look at Party Town. It's completely free, and we've seen a lot of really awesome results. Hamza, I think you were just telling me about one of your prospects, right? Maybe share that with the group.
So one of my prospects actually was, they had a page speed, which is a site speed, which is an average, I think, of 15 or 20 on their hosted Shopify store. And once they were able to add Party Town, it drastically increased to almost 70. So that's a big increase. And I wish I could understand exactly what happens in the back end and explain it, but it's working. Someone that's not a developer, for me, it's working, and it's doing the job. So I've seen it firsthand, and I'm excited for more more brands, whether it's headless, whether it's hosted, to start looking into Party Town, because it is growing like wildfire.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is it's free, and you can also use it hosted or headless. So for those brands that we mentioned that may not actually be ready for headless for whatever factor, Partytown is a great step to try to be like, hey, look at these performance wins we got for you. Like, we, your agency partner, are together with you. We're trying to make you, your leadership team invest more into kind of like a technical revamp and just like really make them happy with you. So I highly recommend. The link is there. Definitely check out Partytown.
And
Now,
just sorry, Julie, I just wanted to add to this as well is, this is an open source project, so you don't need Builder, but talking to developers here at Builder, they said it does having Builder does make it a lot easier to integrate Partytown. So when your developers do look into that, it's worth having that conversation as well and seeing that how Builder can further help with Partytown.
Thanks, Hamza. The last topic we really wanted to cover is kind of agency's role and also where we really see success. And so, Hamza, if you want to go to the next slide, I've kind of, you can definitely check this out in more detail, but this really lays out like what we see an agency consistently doing with merchants. And what the client kind of takes on. It is a true teamwork partnership kind of deal. Like, it is not at all our intent to elbow out the agency. There will always be need for someone to help. But I think on an ongoing basis, you'll be doing all the things on the left-hand side and your client will be doing the things on the right. The last thing I did just want to say, and actually I want to push the question over to Hamza in the last minute that we have here. Talk about what kind of merchants you think are the most successful with Builder, because the reality is, like, it is not a tool that you just pick up on one day and learn. There is some investment that you have to make. There is a learning curve, and it's so powerful, but you have to invest the time to get there. And, I'd love to hear what you think in terms of who has seen the most success.
Absolutely. Yeah, Julia, when I first started learning about Builder, it was very easy to right away get the understanding that, hey, now I don't need agency, now I don't need developers, and now I can literally just download this in my Shopify store and build out these beautiful landing pages, create all this amazing content. And then when I first got started using Builder, I realized that, wait a minute, this is a lot more powerful tool. So not only am I have a lot more power in my hands, but now I'm giving a lot more power to my developers, my marketing team, the agencies out there, the way my relationship is going to be with the agencies now, and the way with the merchandisers. So merchants that are working as a team that, again, like I was reading this article on BFCM and all the things that you have to do in order to have a successful BFCM in 2022. And it says, like, to look into your pop-ups and your abandoned carts and SMS marketing. And there's a lot of things that need to happen. And this is something that, is not just for BFCM. Every day, our brands on Shopify are working hard as teams and trying to create these amazing experiences. And this is a job for, like, agencies are working at it, marketers, merchandisers, the product team, everyone's working together. And this is a tool where, again, Builder really helps with that, where, as an agency, you can build out those code components, and marketing team, I can come and drag and drop and put all these code components and templates where I want and create these beautiful landing pages. And then the merchandisers can come in and kind of, upload images and products. So anyone that, so basically, I think those are the kind of merchants, right? So any brand that thinks that, this tool is gonna reduce their cost of, like, from an agency standpoint, or they don't need a developer, I think they would be more successful if they had a front engineer, or if they had an agency, because the power of this tool, I feel that some of the other users of the tool, what they could do with it, they could really create a lot of magic. And then you can take this magic and kind of, deliver it to your customers, and you can play around with it, and you can make those edits and test and optimize and do whatever you want on the go. And then, so I feel those are the successful brands that kind of see the true power of Builder, as they use more and more of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it just needs to kind of become like you have to be ready for it to become kind of a core part of your process, of your content creation process, right? And honestly, we've kind of been moving more and more up market as we've been around because I think that's really truly where the power there's the most power, right? And with that, we've done a lot of evaluation of our self-service plans, and they do make it really easy to get started, but for those of you who don't know, we offer a dedicated customer success manager and a dedicated technical resource to all enterprise clients. But the same is not there for our self service clients. And so, for an agency that is willing to kind of be that front line and be very involved, then self service is okay. But otherwise, I highly, highly recommend, encouraging all of your clients to explore the enterprise option if they're really ready to commit and make Builder kind of a big part of their day-to-day process. We are way over on time, and so I want to let you all go, but there were some fantastic questions in the Q&A. We'll tackle all of those over email and be reaching out shortly to share all of that as well as the deck soon. So really appreciate your time today. I'm sorry for keeping you for an extra 5 minutes. Hamza, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And we're looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.